we talk about head covering. So you see a picture in the slide, a sister with a veil to cover her head, and she did it at during meeting. So let's read again this chapter. Uh, Maybe I read it for you. Okay. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I deliver them to you. Okay, keep the ordinances. The following things we need to keep. That is a head covering. Verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Okay, so uh, God is the head of all, and there is order set by God. Verse 4. Every man praying and prophesying, having his head covered, dishonor his head. Okay, so that in meeting, our brothers, should not cover your head. But every woman that prays and prophesies with her head uncovered dishonor her head. So that for sisters, when you pray and you preach, you share, we need to cover you need to cover your head. For that is even all one as if she were shaven. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. Okay, so strictly speaking, yeah, our sisters, you can when you pray or when you share, you start to cover your head. But for in order not to be too clumsy, most of the cases, our sisters start cover head uh, uh, in the beginning of the meeting. Verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image of and glory of God. But the woman is the glory of the man. 8. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. So there is a creation order. We should follow the order set by God. Verse 10. For this case, for this cause, ought the woman to have the power on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, and neither the woman without the man in the Lord. For as the woman is of the man, even so is the man also by the woman, but all things of God. Judge in yourselves. Is it comely that a woman pray unto God uncovered? Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man have a long hair, it is a shame to him? But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. Okay, so nature itself teaches us head covering. Okay, verse 16. But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. So that all churches of God in different cities, in all corners of the world, the sisters should cover heads during praying, during sharing. This is what the Bible teaches us. So last time, let's recap. Head covering is a symbol of subjection. a sign of authority. The fall of devil and human beings originated from disobedience. So disobedience is the origin of all sins. So don't obey God selectively. Let's obey God in all aspects. Okay, starting from this chapter, verse 2, it it says, keep the ordinances. In the original language, you will see that that word also means precepts. Precept means command or order. The same as ordinance. Ordinance means an authoritative order, means an order. In short, head covering is what all churches should implement for sisters. So every woman that prays or prophesies, this is talking about preaching, sharing, with her head covered. And man indeed ought not to cover his head when he prays or prophesies. We are not talking about face covering, not like the Muslim. We are talking about head covering. Okay, the meaning of head covering, because head, yeah, our brain inside our head, to command the other parts of the body to do something, so that it is the office to give command. Head covering with a veil refers to one's willingness not to command, but to be commanded. In other words, it is a sign of authority. Let's all obey the authority, obey God's governance and the arrangement from His side. Last time I talked about the rationales behind a head covering. God is the head of all. We should obey God. We all have our positions in church set by God. Let's keep our position faithful to our responsibilities. We respect God, the order of God. Okay, this is the creation order. God made man first and then woman. And it is because of angels, because angels are not all knowing. Yeah, when sisters express this, we respect the order set by God. It teach them, yeah, for the good angels, yeah, it is good for them to continue to obey God. And then for it is a shame to the fallen angels, the evil spirits, the devil. And nature itself teach. Last time we talked about some queries about head covering. Some people think that it is not the command of the Bible, it's only the commandment of Paul, not of God. The answer is the Bible, the First Corinthians, is part of the Bible, God's words written through Apostle Paul, so that it is of God. Okay, and some people think that obedience degrade the status of a woman. No, the context is not talking about status, not it's not a matter about hierarchy. a hierarchical system in church. No. It talks about we need to obey God, respect God's order, keep our positions, faithful to our responsibilities. Okay, and then some people they have a concept or hair is for covering, so that you have sisters have long hair, so that no need to further cover with a veil. Is long hair enough? A woman has long hair, so that she doesn't need to cover her head. Okay, the Bible expressed in verse 5 and 6 like this. But every woman who prays and prophesies with her head unveiled dishonored her head. For that is even the same as if she were shaved. For if the woman is not veiled, let her also be shorn. But if it is the shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be veiled. Okay, so the passage clearly says not covering the head is the same as being shaved. God gives women long hair to remind them through nature that long hair is a covering. But the Bible doesn't say long hair replaces the head covering. In fact, it says if a woman doesn't cover her head, she should cut her hair, not just leave it long. So that the assumption is the sisters would have hair, and then they need to be veiled to implement head covering during praying and sharing, preaching. Okay, some people have another query. The teaching of head covering is only for the church in Corinth. It was only mentioned once in the Bible. Actually, for God's word, even if just a few lines, we should obey. And for this topic, it used half a chapter, 15 verses, to talk about this head covering topic. So that this is important truth sisters should implement. Okay, and then one is the teaching of head covering only mentioned one time in First Corinthians. Some biblical truths also mentioned only one time in the Bible. For example, the practice of anointing the sick with oil by elders is only found in the book of James. But it is also truth. Also, Paul's letters or those of other apostles were often read in many churches. Yeah, I'll read it later. And actually, First Corinthians, in the first chapter, it says, it is written to church, not only to church in Corinth, but also to everyone who calls on the name of the Lord. So let me illustrate. Okay, this is the map. You will see that you will see the location of the Church of God in Corinth, left-hand side. You will also see other churches, such as Colossae, Laodicea, Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia. Okay, on the one hand, this book, First Corinthians, is in addition to the saints in Corinth, also to all those who are called out, with all those in every place including Colossae, Laodicea, Ephesus, and different churches. Also, in Colossians chapter 4, verse 16, Paul's letters were read by different churches. You see that And when this letter, Colossians, has been read among you, have it also read in the church of uh, the Laodiceans, and see that you also read the letter from Laodicea, so that uh, the church in Laodicea and the church in Colossae, they exchange the letters of Apostle Paul to be read by both churches. In short, these teachings not only for one church, but for different churches. Churches in different places at that time cover heads as well. On the contrary, the custom of covering the head, because prostitutes do not cover their heads, does not exist. Okay, some queries about the head covering. They think that Corinthian women cover heads only because of the custom in the East, means Middle East. Okay, Corinth is in the West. They use the custom in the East to explain the West. It doesn't make, we shouldn't explain the Bible in this way. Okay, and then some people think that at that time Paul wrote First and Second Corinthians only because only prostitutes at that time would have their heads uncovered for going outside the public areas. Paul did not want sisters to be associated with them. Okay, so that is not that is for the sake of prostitutes and customs. The Corinthian women thought that they no longer need to cover head because of the freedom they gain. The intention of Apostle Paul to write First Corinthians is to persuade the women to cover their heads and avoid being misunderstood as prostitutes. So head covering is only the issue of Corinthian church. Is it correct? Definitely wrong. It is a picture of today's Athens, a market in Athens, Greece. Okay, of course, this is nowadays a picture. Okay, they think that in first century, they thought that if women were seen uncovered, they would be mistakenly identified as a prostitutes. Okay, first of all, at that time, this is the period of Roman Empire. In other words, Greece is a colony of Roman Empire. So that let's study how is the culture of Roman Empire and how is the culture of the Greece. Okay, left hand side you will see that there's a sculpture about Julia the Elder, one of the famous women in the first century during Roman Empire in the Roman Empire. Okay, so you will see that her head uncovered. This is a sculpture displayed publicly. From that, you will see that the Roman Empire culture always, I agree. Sometimes some women would cover heads, but some of them also not. So that see the words. The claim that if women were seen uncovered, they would be mistakenly identified as a prostitute. This claim is unfounded. Okay, yeah. One scholar, Dr. Gill, explains public marble portraits of women at Corinth. Yeah, many of them are bareheaded in the public. Also, okay, I showed that at that time, Corinth is a Roman colony. Okay. Also, if we talk about Greek men and women, according to the facts, uh, both men and women enter temples with heads uncovered. Nowadays, some Greeks return to worshipping gods of ancient Greece. You will see that when they are worshiping, this is one of the photos, both men and women with their head uncovered. Regarding that saying in Corinth at that time in the Bible time, only sisters cover their heads with a veil, but not brothers. This is not the fact of the Greek. Let me repeat. According to Jewish custom, all men and women enter synagogue with their heads covered. On the contrary, Greek men and women enter temples with heads uncovered. So there is no such a custom for women to cover heads during meeting and when they pray and when they preach, but not men. There's no such a custom. Paul did not mention a reason to cover head for custom in the context. Uh, Also, First Corinthians is for all in every place who call on the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, left hand side, the Church of God in Corinth, and the Gospel, the church started from Israel, and in Israel, in Israel, all Jewish men and women enter synagogue with their heads covered. And in Corinth, in Greece, all men and women enter temple with heads uncovered. You will see this photo nowadays. The Jews they enter the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The men and women with their heads covered. There is no such a custom in the East. Only sisters cover heads, especially only during praying and sharing. Another photo, uh, uh, the the Greek, yeah, some Hellenist ritual in Greece. Yeah, they did their worshiping also with ladies their head uncovered. So if head covering was only for the sake of social custom or to distinguish from prostitutes, why would women only need to cover their heads when praying or preaching? Why not cover their heads most of the time or all the time? Why would it be shameful for men to cover their heads? If this were simply a cultural matter, you saw the Jewish men, yeah, the photo, yeah, their men also cover their heads when they enter the synagogues. Okay, Paul says, "Keep the ordinances as I deliver them to you." When talking about this topic, he used the wording "keep the ordinances." Very clear. This is a command we should keep, and this is because of angel. The Bible says it is because of the angels. Why not write a woman should have a symbol of authority on their head because of the culture? Wouldn't that be clearer? This shows that this passage is not about culture. Okay, and then even nature teach. Paul used nature as his reasoning, not culture. If talking about culture, culture should be men and women cover their heads most of the time. Unlike today's Kenya, there's no such a custom where only women cover or only during praying or speech. There's no such a custom. Okay. Many churches consider head covering to be a cultural, saying that modest women in those days cover their heads in public or risk being viewed as immoral or even prostitutes. So that they think that today, since that custom no longer exists, there's no need for head covering. Okay, first of all, we need to have a concept. Just because a biblical instruction has a similar background to a cultural practice doesn't mean it's purely cultural and not the Lord's teaching. For example, we have the Lord's Supper. We now always remember the Lord uh, in the meeting, the Lord's Supper. Some brothers and sisters call it a bread breaking meeting, the Lord's Supper. Actually, regarding the background of the Jews, they, their daily food is also bread. They also break the bread daily. But the Lord's Supper comes with special meaning, and that is a command we need to observe. They have that background to break bread every day for their as their food, but it doesn't mean that the Lord's Supper is not a command of the Lord. In Acts 2:42, talking about 3,000 people converted, and then in those days, they always break the bread, and then according to Albert Barnes' notes, it is probably talking about love meal. So they use bread as food. Doesn't mean this culture doesn't mean the Lord's Supper, bread breaking meeting is not the command of the Lord. Okay, I try to look at the explanation how the Christians explain no need to implement head covering, and this is one of the book. Okay, I try to know what source of evidences they are using. This this author he did not talk about prostitutes culture, but he talks about the culture in the East, the culture in the East. Okay, the writings in Hastings Dictionary of the Bible. That is a Bible. That is a dictionary. More than 100 years ago. Okay. It says no. No respectable woman in the Eastern Village. Okay, remember this wording, Eastern Village, or Eastern City. Okay, goes out without it. And if she does, she is in danger of being misjudged. Indeed, English and American missionaries in Egypt, okay, he's talking about Egypt, not talking about Corinth, tells the present writer that their own wives and daughters, when going about, find it often best to wear the veil. Okay, down there, uh, it used the saying of Sir William Ramsay. Okay, explain in this way, in Oriental lands. Okay, it talks about the East. In Oriental lands, not talking about West. The veil is the power and honor and dignity of woman. Okay, in Oriental land, I agree with them, but we are not talking about Oriental land. We are talking about Corinth in the West. With the veil on her head, she can go anywhere in security and profound respect. She is not seen. It is a must of thoroughly bad manners to observe a veiled woman in the streets. She is alone. Okay, he talks about in Oriental land to cover heads would be better to okay, but as I illustrate, he used Egypt, used in the East, but Corinth is in the West. They use Eastern custom to explain Western situations. Using modern condition in the South to explain the custom of Corinth, Greece, 1800 years ago, because both that Hastings Dictionary and Sir William Ramsay, about 100 and 200 years ago, persons, so that they use a modern time seeing the situation to explain situation 800 years ago is wrong. Okay, over here, let me explain. Regarding this wording, tradition and custom, does it mean if this is tradition, we do not need to observe? First of all, I want to have to avoid misconception. Tradition can be of two kinds. One kind is consistent with God's commandments, like Galatians chapter 1, verse 14. Okay, and then another kind of tradition is contrary to God's commandment, like the ones mentioned in Colossians chapter 2, verse 8, and Matthew 15:2. Okay, they're talking about the tradition of man transgress God's commandment. Okay, regarding reading the Bible, we need to read the word meaning, and then we have contextual meaning. If you see the passage as a whole, you will see that the meaning as a whole, what it means. And sometimes there will be some omission of the word to make it simpler. Okay, so some brothers and sisters think that because King James said that ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. In King James, there is no sign of authority, or mark of authority, token of authority, symbol of authority. There's no wording like this. So that they think that, head covering is not a sign of authority. Okay, but let's now refer to another 12 translations to see the contextual meaning generally understood by the translators. Okay, you will see that, we revised the version, James Murdoch New Testament, Young's literal translation, Weymouth New Testament, Lexham English Bible. They add a sign of authority, the mark of authority, token of authority, symbol of subjection, symbol of authority. And then let's take a look some more. Regarding American Standard Version, English Majority Text Version, Bible in Basic English, easy to read version, ESV, God's Words, contemporary English version, you will see that a sign of authority, symbol, a sign of authority, and something that shows she is under authority. Okay, so you will see that sometimes the omission to make it simpler, you from the perspective of 12 translators, you will see that the general understanding of the passage is a sign of authority. Okay. Yeah, let's read it again, because this chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2, keep the ordinances. Ordinances means law or order. In short, we do need to observe. We do need to implement. There are some famous Bible dictionaries to explain the words in the Bible. For example, Strong's Hebrew Greek dictionaries, like Thayer's Greek dictionaries definitions. This is especially related to New Testament. And then Brown Driver Breaks Hebrew definitions. Okay, so let's take a look at Strong's Hebrew and Greek dictionary. It explained that what Apostle Paul said, we need to keep the ordinance. Actually, that word also means precepts, command and order. We need to implement. Okay, over here, you will start that the original language also means tradition. But as I said, there are two kinds of traditions. One is consistent with God's commandment, while the other is contrary. You will see that regarding precept, specifically the Jewish traditionary law. Okay, Thayer's, it explained that it is a tradition, that is tradition by instruction. Okay, 2b, the highlighted words. Okay, of the body of precepts, especially ritual, which in the opinion of the latter Jews were orally delivered by Moses and orally transmitted in unbroken succession to subsequent generations. And then regarding these precepts, they observe. Okay, when we take a look at King James Concordance, you will see that these original words appear 13 times. And 12 of the times are translated as tradition with or without S. And one time ordinances. Okay, let me summarize here. Is it too small? I let you have a little bit time to read it. Do you understand? I try to summarize those 13 verses. Okay, so the first 9 verses talking about the Lord Jesus. The Bible said that some tradition is contrary to God's commandment, so that we should not observe. Okay, and then starting from verse 10, it talks about the tradition of my fathers. Okay, Galatians chapter 1, verse 14, and profited in the Jews' religion about my equals in my own nation, being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my fathers. Okay, Apostle Paul said that before conversion, he observed the tradition of his fathers. And Joseph Flavius praised the Pharisees uh, for for observing God's law in the Hellenistic period. Okay, Moses' laws are important in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, people should observe the laws and tradition uh, uh, at that time. But in New Testament, we understand that God bring forth a new age, a New Testament. Okay, so from 11 to 13, there are 3 times talking about tradition or ordinances that is important. We need to observe. Okay. Uh, okay. Now let's take a look, make it bigger regarding the final 3 verses. Talking about the traditions we should observe. Second Thessalonica 2:15. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which you have been taught, whether by word or our epistle, means letters. First Corinthians is a letter. Okay, so Paul said that no matter I teach you through writing or through words, uh, okay, call them traditions. The tradition I teach you through words and letters, you should stand fast, hold them, keep them. In short, uh, uh, head covering is the tradition Paul teach. God wants us to observe. Okay, and then Second Thessalonica chapter 3, verse 6. Now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw yourselves from every brother that walks disorderly and not after the tradition which he received from us. Okay, at that time, Paul was teaching something. Paul used the wording tradition or ordinances to explain. Paul wants us to implement generation after generation. And Paul warned them, if anyone's do not listen, do not observe, leave them. So this is important to observe. And again, verse 2, chapter 11, Paul said that he praised the Corinthians brothers and sisters. They kept the ordinances. So let's keep. Okay, on the other hand, because I have a line of thoughts. Because if they say in the time of writing Bible, there was such a custom. Theoretically speaking, they are false goddess. If it would be misunderstood as prostitutes, their goddess would all have their heads covered. But when you take a look at the coins, the ancient coins are discovered. This coin discovered before Christ. Okay, you will see that their goddess only without head covering. This one only with a little bit headdress. Okay, another time, yeah, and another goddess of the Greece. Okay, this is the head of a young woman, perhaps the city name. Okay. Also with a little bit head dress only, no head covering. Okay, this is another goddess, uh, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Yeah, no head covering. Okay, this is another sculptures regarding Venus, also of no head covering. Okay, the following is uh, Artemis, also only with a little bit headdress. Okay, Demeter, also of no head covering. Okay, this one, it comes with a head because Athena is the goddess of war. Okay, in construction sites, we need to wear helmets. So that for war, she needs an helmet. She is exceptional. So uh, there is no such a custom. Okay, for Corinthian women to for head covering during worshiping. Okay, then finish this argument, and then some people say that heart submission without head covering is okay. They think that head covering is a symbol of submission. If one covers the head outwardly but not inwardly, it's meaningless. I agree. But if you are submissive in your heart, how come outwardly your head not covered with veil? Yeah, it's not justifiable. Okay, and the Bible clearly says that it's because of the angels. Okay, this is a visible action to teach the lesson of submission to the angels. No matter they are the fallen angels or the good angels. Head covering is a small action, but a big testimony. Sisters, I know that in Kenya you have your culture as well. Yeah, but I hope that you will see that it is a small action in meeting, a big testimony. It's a testimony. Okay, if everyone respect God's order, keep our positions, faithful to our responsibilities, how harmonious would the world be, and how pleasing to God it is. Okay, so last time we talked about when should sisters cover head. Okay, in cell group you do not need. In sisters meeting, only sisters, you do not need to cover heads. But in church meeting, like church prayer meetings, bigger scale meetings, the Lord's Supper, elders and deacons meetings, the sisters should cover heads. Okay. One reminders about head covering. Uh, Sisters should reflect when you cover your head. Okay. Uh, you should you should reflect on the meaning of head covering. Examine whether your submission is sincere. Okay. When you see a sister covering their heads, uh, we should be reminded. We should be humble. We all submit to God. We all fulfill our own responsibilities as brothers. We fulfill our responsibilities as brothers.